Today I look at how crazy easy NVMe pass-through has become with ESXi 6.5 Update 1 here. All right, so on the left you'll see we have a live look at the machine. And on the right you'll see we have ESXi host client, which basically means I pointed the browser to the name or IP address of my server. And if we go to the Manage tab, you'll see an Optane drive, Intel non-volatile memory controller. Let's have a look at that. So bringing up a browser tab here. This is the article with the Intel Optane drive. But like any NVMe drive, it can be seen on the PCI bus. So there it is. There's nothing else like it anywhere installed in the machine. A whole bunch of SATA ports and Xeon components for this Intel Xeon D system. So specifically, I'm running on a Xeon D 1541. This is what it looks like, and the card's installed. All right. So the point of this video is that pass-through is possible and super easy to do in this situation. And then I'm going to create a VM on it. So let's show you pass-through. Intel non-volatile memory controller. That's a device. It says disabled for pass-through. I'm going to say toggle. And right away it says changes made will not take effect until the host is restarted. I can dismiss that. And not much else to do here other than reboot the host because it's not going to work. Now, if you have other VMs running, you want to make sure you're in maintenance mode or shut down all VMs. Do whatever you got to do. In my case, we're about to see the DCUI, the local user interface, show that the host, the server, is rebooting. And there it is. Once it's rebooted, we'll have the ability to pin that NVMe drive to a particular virtual machine. And I'll walk you through and show you all that as well. So stay tuned. I'm actually going to do a little time lapse and speed up this segment of the video. And back up. Now I just need to log back in here in the host client, web browser. And soon we'll be looking at a booted system. And under Manage, PCIe or PCIe is going to look a little different now that we have a device passed or eligible for pass-through. So for people that like to build their own NASs out of fast NVMe, this has all sorts of interesting potential. Hopefully I've just, if nothing else, piqued your interest. For instance, these different devices, like this 4-way device, each of these NVMe drives can be attached. There's 2 in the front, 2 in the back. Each could be pinned to a particular VM independently at full speed using just one PCIe slot. So hopefully now I got your attention. So yes, this awesomely easy NVMe pass-through that works well and is speedy is a really good thing. I'm just getting started. So continuing showing you how we do this. If we look at Manage under PCI devices, it doesn't have an E on there. It now says active. So there we go. It's ready. So it's time to create a virtual machine. And I'm going to call it, let's see, Windows 2016 Optane. Sure. Now I'm going to leave it with the latest compatibility, but the guest OS family is going to go over to Windows, and it's going to go over to Windows Server 2016 64-bit. Something like that. That crazy long name. Why? Because that's the actual name. Right there. Intel Optane SSD P4800X series. Now, the data store. Yes, we do need another drive that's VMFS formatted to put this VMX file, this configuration, this empty shell of a VM we're creating. So I've gone ahead and chosen a local data store. Let's give this thing some grunt. So I'm going to be showing this off of VMworld. Why not give it 8 CPUs? Heck, it's one of the only things I'll be showing off in the VMs there. Why not give it 10 CPUs? Or, watch this, you can go to 2 sockets. Yeah, let's just go to 10. All right, more important, some of these other settings. 8 gig. Now, watch what happens when I try to delete its hard drive that it comes with and point to an ISO file for the install. So I have Windows Server 2016 right there, trial edition. So we're all set. I've got the ISO mounted. I've got no local hard drive. We're looking good there, but there's no hard drive, right? And before I forget, under VM options, I got to go to boot options and say, this is an EFI type of system. Critical. You're not going to get boot from a drive working without that in the VM. All right, so what's missing here is adding another device. So I'm going to add a PCI device. Scroll down, and we can see there's only one option available. It's the NVMe device, non-volatile memory controller device. Okay, now I'm ready to click next. I don't have to add the NVMe adapter, by the way. This is just adding a PCI pass-through device. Okay, now it talks about memory. What is it talking about? Why is it so huge, that crazy number it's showing? So let's talk about that. I put 8,000 gigs, so that was a mistake. Anyhow, we can make a reservation for 8 gig by turning on Reserve All Guest Memory. That's it. Now it's happy. So 8 gig of RAM, it's all reserved. If you use vSphere Web Client, it'll offer to make the reservation for you that I just showed you. But I wanted to make this video as universal as possible, even for the free hypervisor for one ESXi host vhere you don't have vCenter managing it. I'd strongly recommend getting that. But anyhow, maybe you don't have it. Okay, so we have a VM now that has the super duper capabilities. I'm going to go ahead and finish creation of this VM. Let's have a look at that VM we just created. All right. And I'm going to power it on. And it failed. So we have a little memory issue there. Me convincing how easy it is? Well, it's a little harder when you don't have the web client handling some strangeness with memory. So now that it's changed 8 gig into 8192 meg, and I say reserve all guest memory, I should be okay at this point. And that succeeded. So now I should be able to power on. Whew. Still giving me a problem. So what is the issue here? All right, so reservations aren't going to be possible through the web client. It sure seems like it's just not going to work out. So I'm going to have to bail and head on over to the host client. And actually the vSphere client is the way of the future here. So let me do that. The HTML5 interface, vSphere client. I'm going to go ahead and point to the VM from there, edit the settings, and let's see if we can get the memory to cooperate here. Reserve all guest memory, 8 gig, and it looks like it did the math and changed it to 812 meg. A little weird, right? Okay, there we go. So back to the host client for everything else. Should now be able to click on that, hit the space bar, and now we're booting off the DVD-ROM. The mounted ISO is presented as a DVD drive, and this is what a UEFI install of Windows looks like. So from here, Windows is just going to find the Intel Optane drive as a bootable device. there were no other bootable devices other than the ISO, right? The NVMe drive is empty, waiting for me to put partitions and put Windows on there. Everything you're seeing should very much apply for Windows 10 as well. I'm going to put desktop experience on there. I want a GUI. And now it's sniffing out if there's any partitions and what the drive layout is like, and then it's going to present to me what my options are. So from here on onward, it's going to look, well, this whole install is going to look just like a normal install on a physical hard drive. Go to custom, unallocated space, so about 349 gig available. Cool, just hit next. And now we're going to get a very speedy install. Okay, it's like 2-3 minutes later, and I have a copy of Windows installed now. So, trying to send weird keystrokes. Click on Actions. Guest OS, send keys, Control-Delete. A little clumsy until we have VMware Tools installed. And we can just use something like Remote Desktop to show you the rest. Anyhow, very straightforward install. But Tools is not yet installed. All right. So let me install Tools. So we got a little warning here saying Tools is not installed. Cool. It's good, it's warning me. So what Tools is going to give us is a little smoother experience in this VM. Let me explain. Look at Device Manager. Here we go. Tools came up. Run it. Device Manager is going to look a little bit funny. Like instead of a basic video driver and a basic mouse, we should see VMware branded devices for both of those. So once we install Tools, the experience in the VM will get a little better. And at this point, I tend to go and do netpl, and I just make it automatically log in because this is a VM I'm about to be working on and doing a bunch of Windows updates on and all that. Now you saw the screen blanked out, that's normal. VMware Tools installs a video driver and Windows always blanks out briefly when a video driver is installed. Okay, so now that VM will restart ridiculously fast. And before we forget, I can go ahead and edit the properties of the VM and turn off the DVD-ROM drive. So what I can do, it looks like it's already dismounted, so that's cool. Can put it on the host device so it doesn't nag that this VM is attached in any way to a drive like that. And then this non-optimized network driver I can remove and add the better type, the VMXNet 3. So it's just a little bit of post VM created cleanup. And some of it didn't like because the VM was running. Or actually booting, so that probably didn't really help. Not the best timing I had there. Okay, VM. It's not going to let me remove the NIC while it's running. All right. So finishing up the cleanup. Well, you've seen the whole procedure. It's not rocket science to do NVMe pass-through. What you haven't seen yet is the speed, which again can be pretty nifty. Okay, DVD-ROM now detached and network killed. Let me save that. So 2 things saved. Cool. And now let's add a network back in of the type that uses the optimized VMXNet driver that requires VMware Tools to be installed, which we already did. Okay, now I'm ready to boot up. Again, a crazy fast boot with a snazzy new video driver that we did earlier, and now a new network driver that we just installed. All right, why is it claiming another user is on there? Not quite sure. Let's see if we can get a better screen size here. Yes. All right. Now, if you look over here, since VMware Tools is installed, I was hoping to get the IP address out of the machine. I'm not seeing it there, but that's okay. Let me just go to System and make sure Remote Desktop is possible. Okay. That's now done. And Command Prompt 189. So I'm now going to launch Remote Desktop and head on in and do the credentials for 189. Shouldn't nag me again. And now I'm in. So we've created a VM that should have pretty astounding speed, but it might be doing Windows Update junk. So not the best time to do this benchmark. The thing is, Windows Update is smart enough during normal hours like this to not get kicked off right away. So if we look at all the CPUs, there we go, 10 of them. And the CPU utilization is nice and low, less than 1%. So now I'm going to grab something like ATDO Dispatch. Okay, connect it to a network share, and now I'm pasting in. And time to let her rep. So again, you always want to make sure Task Manager is doing pretty close to nothing. In fact, when I have an out-of-band management, other videos I've done where I cover how I kick off these benchmarks, I'll also do things like disable a network adapter. But I want to show you over Remote Desktop to have the full experience. Okay, CPU is minimized. Now I'm going to run this and see how we do. You get that error. So there's our results. Pretty amazing results, especially at the 4K size. Those are terrific numbers. So I'm all set showing you ATTO Dispatch at this point. How about we set up for another quick reboot? So to set up for the reboot, I'm going to skip out on Remote Desktop, close it, and do a login through the local user interface for the VM. Doesn't rely on networking. And now we'll get a sense of the crazy fast speeds of a Windows Server 2016 desktop experience reboot. So we're ready now. Clicking on Start, Restart, and here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. Shutting down services very quickly. Windows Server is shipping pretty light these days. 2016 has fewer services than 2012, and certainly way fewer than 2008 did. Still, booting in about, what is this going to be? There's the Windows logo, so that's the start of the boot. Something like 8 seconds to desktop is pretty amazing. Now, if we look at Task Manager, we'll see the CPUs have already settled down to 2%. That's awesome. So this system is ready to use very quickly. I'll probably want to try this under Windows 10 also. It'll be fun to see. But wait, there's more. Browser locally on this laptop where I'm recording the video with the remote machine, and then I'll just drop the driver in. So we want to get the latest driver. And notice it's now only 10 days since this was released. And actually, I didn't see this on the site when I looked a couple days ago. So I'm going to grab the Windows Server 2016 NVMe driver bundle. So here's the driver, and it says a newer version of the software is available. Let's go here to get the latest version. So we have August 14th, P4800X, right? And it says you'll need to use this older version. So for the 4800X, we are still stuck back on this previous release. All right. Just need to deal with that. So we have the tools and we have the driver. And it looks like I already had a copy of that, so you're not going to have that parenthesis 1. All right. So I'm going to go and extract everything. And let's go to the installer folder and try to set this up. So we're going to let the installer do its thing. And this should work. And we should see Device Manager change what's shown there. Okay, I have to restart. Now if I click here to open the log files, we're going to actually see what just happened. And I really want to have file extensions showing. And there you go. It shows me all the details. And I guess we'll know the version after the reboot. All right. So it will be interesting to see if there's a speed difference. I'll go ahead and reboot now. Be right back. Okay, the reboot happened. Let me go back in Remote Desktop. Right click, Device Manager, Disk Drives. Might not see anything there, but Storage Controller looks different already. Intel Optane, there you go. And is there anything newer than June 12th? Looks like that would be no. All right. How about the tools? Do we want the tools? All right. I still want to double check that the tools are correct. Firmware update tools, latest August 4th. Is the 4800X in there? The answer is no. So let's see. The data center tool, that second link looked promising. Latest version. There you go. So that's our friend for Windows. Notice there's a VMware one as well. Not applicable here because I'm using pass-through, right? So we're using Windows as if it's installed natively, because it really is. The drive is just being passed through. So Tools is now ready. 306 is supported. So 306, okay, it's the same thing. All right, because it was okay after all. It's the same tool set, just a different URL to grab it. All right, I'm gonna run it, 64-bit, and see what happens. So tools are command line only. We don't have a fancy GUI here, right? So if we look here, there will be directions buried there somewhere. And I've used these under Linux actually, and ESXi, and now under Windows. So yeah, this is command line stuff, looking at smart data, looking at firmware, all that good stuff. So let's have a look at tools briefly. I'm going to right click on this while holding down Shift, open, and whoops, let's try that again. Right click on this, and we're not going to get to command line that way. Let me just open up command prompt as admin then, and let's see where we are. There you go, a whole bunch of options to you. So there, we got our built-in help system. Wow, I keep forgetting my commands here. It's bouncing back and forth Linux to Windows. All right, so what can we do with this utility? And let's see what's in the firmware modules folder. Okay, so if we look, question mark, nope, leave it empty, you get a whole bunch of stuff. Let's look for a list. NVMe controller list sounds pretty promising. Show. Selected drive does not support this feature. Okay, whatever. Be that way. So the tool is installed and it's working, and we can maybe even look at smart data. Okay. And there we go. A whole bunch of smart data. Cool. So the tool is working just fine. How about dash display? I don't know what that does. No, nothing. More parameters. Serial number, firmware. So firmware, I want to not necessarily do an update. Maybe I just want to see what the firmware is that I'm at. So that seems to be on this line. Show. Show. And there it is, the firmware that I'm at. All right, so you've had a look at the tools. You've had a look at how to do pass-through. I covered a lot in this video. Let me end, hopefully on a happy note, with even better speed test numbers. But you remember, I warned you, make darn sure your CPU is doing almost nothing. And with NVMe drivers and speedy drives like this, it shouldn't take much CPU grunt at all to run such a benchmark, because that's kind of the whole point. You don't have SATA or SAS protocol overhead with NVMe. And the fact that the hypervisor is running and could potentially be running other VMs, although I have no other VMs booted right now, but it could, yeah, you're going to lose a little bit because VMware is still running, a data center in the background on this Xeon host. But again, I have no other VMs booted. It's really just a thin hypervisor, ESXi 6.5 Update 1, and this Windows Server 2016 Desktop Experience VM. So as I come in for a landing here on the end of this video, I'll just point out a few things. Passing through is not ideal. Normally you want to just VMFS format an Intel Optane drive or anything like it. And also this is an enterprise-y product. So you may want to wait for a consumer version of Intel Optane that's not called DC for data center, P4800X. So Optane goodness, but in a consumer, price. Might be more practical, have a decent warranty. You don't need quite the right endurance of what an enterprise would do abusing this thing day and night with many terabytes written or drive writes per day, whatever measure you want to look at. So just point out those things. When you do pass-through of a VM, you also lose things like snapshots and cloning, and heck, you saw I couldn't even add or dismount a virtual machine network adapter while the VM is running. So you lose a lot of the goodness of a VM when you do pass-through. Nevertheless, for a demo in VMworld next week, this will work out quite nicely because I am able to show off Optane with pretty amazing speeds and also run a data center, meaning I can show things like, hey, this is what vSphere client looks like when I'm running and have the ability to run many VMs with a lot of RAM and all that. And I'll just be bringing this one cluster with me on the plane to Las Vegas. So hopefully you found this video helpful. Thanks for watching. And if you're going to VMworld, come say hi. And thanks for visiting tinkertry.com.